Good afternoon, everyone. Yang Yan Zhao. The Dungeon Delver has come up from the mines of Moria, and the Dungeon Minister freshly shorn.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are here to plot world domination. And talk about some nerdy stuff. Gentlemen, how has your month been?
Best left unsaid.
Wedding season for you, I believe.
Tis. That's been the best of it, actually. That's been the happy bits.
Well,
a bit of a run around and things colliding and crashing and belts tightening and all the other stuff. With the usual.
And Dungeon Delver?
I have been busier than ever. You know, every day seems to be a little bit busier than the previous one, whether it's doing stuff on the show over on my channel, whether it's just honeydews around the house or whatever, just busy. I've been doing some videos with, let's see, Harmony Ginger is local to me. So she came over, was like in this, that's, not counting Mrs. the Dungeon Delver. That's the first time I've had like a non-family member guest in the studio.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I've been over on Tim Imholtz's show a few times. He does, well, I say show, it's I've shot some videos with him, and that's been fun and interesting, and I've just been keeping on. You know, of course, we've got 2 live stream games. Yang, you're in one of those on Friday nights, the Gamma World game, and just guests and writing and all kinds of stuff.
Excellent. Now, in more serious news, Dungeon Delver, for years, you have been espousing the wonders and the glory of Greyhawk.
Do you like Greyhawk? I thought you were a Forgotten Realms guy.
Little bit.
Do you feel at all responsible or culpable for the default Dungeons and Dragons 2024 setting?
There is an old saying, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. I'm on record as being a guy who, like, when I say Greyhawk, I mean the folio and or the box set and like 21st edition AD&D modules. They kept Greyhawk going after Gary left. Carl Sargent came in, and I think I could be completely wrong about this, but I think Jonathan Tweet did some development on it. But my Greyhawk stops the day Gary leaves the office. That's, you know, so new Greyhawk to me is anything from 1986 to today. So the fact that they're coming in and they've deleted Blackmoor. Blackmoor is no longer on the Greyhawk map. There's a few new cities and that sort of thing. As far as I'm concerned, this reintroduced Greyhawk is literally just somebody else's Greyhawk campaign that they're selling us. It's not the Greyhawk. The Greyhawk is in the folio and the box set and those modules, full stop. So the fact that they're using the Greyhawk map and saying, this is a map of the world you could use, and here's a few deities and whatnot as examples in the Dungeon Master's Guide, confronts me not a little bit. As far as why they did it, I have a lot more cynical, darker attitude about that. And it's basically that they are taking turns with everything, marking them. I'll spare the lowbrow comment for that, but essentially running around making sure that all the grognards know who it belongs to. You know, it's like if you leave something fallow for too long, you're going to have fans just say, look, they're not paying any attention to this.
Yeah.
Let's just start developing it. And then you turn around and there's a decade or more of pure fan creations and a fan base considers they own it. I mean,
and you've made no money.
Yeah. Technically, Star Frontiers belongs to Wizards of the Coast because it belonged to TSR. But TSR promptly started ignoring it like after like 1985 or 86. They basically just said, no more Star Frontiers. And so it sat for decades, plural. And fans who loved it, they created a huge, just a gargantuan online resource for Star Frontiers, homemade modules. They even use the FRUA, the Forgotten Realms Unlimited Adventure engine to create Star Frontiers computer games and that sort of thing. And Wizards of the Coast found themselves in the unenviable position of having this enormous fan resource. And at that time, they were not willing to cross the Rubicon and say, nope, just delete it all. Just take it down. You can't have any of that. I mean, you know, a company like Nintendo they'll kill a fan project out of spite. You know, it's like, it's free. It uses our homegrown resources. We reverse engineered this stuff, clean room, and we'll show you how we did. Get rid of it. But I don't think that Hasbro Wizards of the Coast was willing to go that far with Star Frontiers. But to roll this back into the Greyhawk discussion, I think that they took a lesson away from that, and that was to give every setting a turn at being given a swirly by them so they can say, nope, we're still using it. We're still using it. And I would imagine that eventually they'll sack up and do some weak sauce milquetoast thing with Al-Qadim, with Maztica, with Birthright, with Spelljammer, and on and on and on, just to make sure people know that they belong to them. And it just so happens that they're doing that with Greyhawk right now.
Well, they do
Spelljammer.
Yeah, last year I think it came out.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But I am going to take the opposite tack, and I am going to go with the old adage, never attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. I think that they have pretty much picked clean most of the good Forgotten Realms settings and campaign guides and whatnot. I think they've already done it. And if you go back, well, you can't really do Dark Suns because that's going to be very problematic in 2024. So, you know, where do you go? Well, you go with Greyhawk. And I think this is because if you look at the sales of their quote unquote new material for the last year or so, it's all been duds. There's really nothing that anyone modern is coming up with is selling at all. So I think they have to go back and they say, well, you know, Greyhawk was very popular. It's something that hasn't, I mean, when was the last time they made anything for it? When second edition was still around? It hasn't, I don't think it was out for 4. I don't think it was for 3.
Well, no, third edition's default was Greyhawk. There was a Greyhawk Gazetteer. They revisited a lot of classic Greyhawk, and even in 5th edition, Tales from the Yawning Portal had the Against the Giants modules updated for 5e, White Plume Mountain, and Tomb of Horrors, and all of those are Greyhawk set.
Interesting, but not officially Greyhawk.
No, not in a sense of we're doing. You know,
I have the feeling, and I think it's the same thing as putting Venger on the cover of is the Monster Manual or the new
DMG.
DMG. I think what it is they release something, you know, the Strixhaven or whatever, and it gets lambasted on Twix and other social media for being so far from the Dungeons and Dragons of yore and being like, this is what has become, how the mighty have fallen. And I honestly think that they think, well, if we put Venger on the cover, then they'll think, well, they like us, right? They think that the grognards will say, oh, well, see, now they've got it right. There's Venger. We remember Venger. We like him. Mm-hmm. So now it's good. I honestly think that's their idea, that say, we'll do Greyhawk. I know those old timers love Greyhawk. So let's do Greyhawk. Then they'll like it. And they don't, they just don't get it at all. But bless them for thinking, like, just slap Venger on the cover and it'll all be good.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like I said, with Tales from the Yawning Portal, they had the Against the Giants modules, and I think you've got the right of it that so much of what they've done have been duds that they can't. They're strip mining as much as they can to try and create stuff that maybe works. But again, I think there's a lot of "don't forget this belongs to us," by the way, happening too. I mean, again, you can say, well, that's a little paranoid, Bill, but no, I absolutely think that's the case.
I would agree that there are some people who are really enjoying remaking all of this stuff. But I do think that a lot of it has to do with money, just in the sense that, you had, whatchamacallit, you had all these settings that could fit into Forgotten Realms. And since this is still 5e, this is still 5th edition. They haven't renumbered it at all. So you need a setting that could handle that you could cram in as many modules and have it as versatile as Forgotten Realms was. And certainly Greyhawk is going to be that setting. It's such a versatile place. You have every kind of terrain almost, lost lore, little pieces of this and that they could theoretically, expand on. So I think it's all very cynical, and then they just hired incompetent people to make it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not too far off the mark.
I think that ultimately you have to assume that the motivation is money. I mean, that would be the only reason. If I was going to sell books, I wouldn't be doing it, for a hobby. It's a lot of work. If I was going to produce something like this, it's to sell units, it's to make money. And so they must figure that there's a nostalgia factor, that there's an authenticity factor that they can draw on, that they can maybe win back some of the grognards, any number of things. I think I think it's dressing it up. It's dressing up a modern thing as if it were old. And hoping that it passes.
Yeah. They've skinned the corpse and are dancing around in its tegument, like,
yep.
Look at me, honey. I'm old school. Come give me a kiss. And it's just,
hello, fellow teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, fellow teenagers.
So I'm wondering too. Now, of course, we don't know exactly what's in there because it won't be out. The player's handbook won't be out till September. I think the DMG is October, and then the monster manual in November. But I'm kind of wondering too, what do you guys think about the art choice?
I've seen the Dungeon Master's screen. Okay, let me take a step back. Mm-hmm. A lot of the art is competently done. I just think I just think it doesn't fit. There's the alternate cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide featuring a Drider with golden skin, but I mean, whatever at this point, they're gonna say what they want about Drider that are the color of the Black Widow spider, right? Wrapping a guy up there, you can just see like this panicked expression as she's cheerily weaving a web around the guy. It's the cover, the alt cover for the Dungeon Master's Guide. And it's a fine piece of art. It's perfectly okay. I don't mind it at all. But it doesn't work, in my opinion. It doesn't work as a Dungeon Master's Guide cover. If it was a cover of, Drow, enemy of mankind, or, something to do with the Drow, or a picture of Loth, maybe, in the new monster manual, it would be fine. It just don't sit with me as a Dungeon Master's Guide cover. And as far as the player's handbook alt cover, with everyone sitting down and having tea with a gold dragon, again, the artwork itself is fine. It does nothing for me. It is not inspirational. It's not aspirational. That's something you put in the middle or the back of the book as a glorious gatefold page, but as something that is supposed to grab me and say, this is cool stuff you can be doing.
It's cozy. It's lovely. I mean, I follow an account on Twix that she posts these pictures of gnomes and badgers having tea in the woods, and little garden parties with mice, and they're charming and winsome and fun. And I follow it so I can show the boys, mostly Bob Johnny, because he likes that kind of stuff. And they're lovely. But they wouldn't be Dungeons and Dragons because there's no danger involved. I have to say, in terms of the alternate Dungeon Masters cover with the Drider, that of all of them, I find the most appropriate, and because it is specifically the Dungeon Master's Guide, because it's showing the monster as in power and as in control, which is what I love about the old classic covers. So often it was showing agency for the heroes. And I mean, I'm gonna brag on my own edition, the famous Beckme cover, the red dragon and the fighter, the guy who's charging at the red dragon. The beauty of it is that you didn't see his face, and so you could self-insert, right? And it wasn't until I think it was the master book of that series that you saw the face of the hero. He's astride a gold dragon flying over the world. All the others, there was no face, and I think they were the best of them because you couldn't see who it was, and you could self-insert to a certain extent, or you were right behind. That was the fighter, and you were the magic user right behind him, about to help out, whatever, right? And so the Drider one does show the agency, the sort of malicious agency that the dungeon master is in charge of running, So that doesn't entirely clash with me. But the Gold Dragon Tea Party is, you hang that on a kid's bedroom wall, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, isn't that nice? I remember I posted a picture of. It was actually one of my kids running through the forest, and I grabbed a picture of him as he went, and I put the quote by G.K. Chesterton or C.S. Lewis. I can't remember which one of them. It's that children don't need. Fairy tales don't tell children that dragons are real. Children know dragons are real. Fairy tales tell them that the dragon can be killed. Right? And somebody posted, or maybe the dragon could be their friend. No, that's not what dragons are. Dragon, serpent, Satan. This is where we're going here. That the dragons are evil. Dragons are wicked. And I know gold dragons are not. Blah 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 blah. But the the idea that there should be danger inherent in it, and so what the people there are doing is heroic. They're rising to the occasion, not, would you not another biscuit with your tea? It just doesn't stir anything.
Well, I think, I mean, having a positive interaction with the dragon, I mean, this isn't some new soft kind of thing. I mean, if we look, the first ever Dungeons and Dragons novel, and I know this may surprise a lot of people, was actually not even TSR. And Yang, I actually shared my screen down if you wanna show that. It's Quag Keep by Andre Norton, and the cover art to Quag Keep is a group of adventurers meeting a gold dragon and having a conversation with them. It's not swords out, blood flying, that sort of thing. They're having a positive interaction with a gold dragon.
Well, they're having an interaction. You don't know how it's going to go.
Exactly. And in the book,
the suggestion there is if he doesn't like what's happening, they're dead.
Yeah, and that is very much how it is in the book. They don't rock up to him and say, "Hey, let's brew some tea and talk about this situation going on at Quag Keep." It's very touch and go, and it goes back to what I've always said regarding alignment, and that is lawful good does not mean lawful nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I point that out to say that yes, there are instances when we meet a dragon. I didn't ask what color its scales were. I said I cast fireball. But again, as a cover for a player's handbook, why didn't you save that for like the gold dragon illustration? I mean,
no.
Gold dragons in AD&D are always noted as being munificent, as being very patient and wise and kind and that sort of thing. That illustration would have fit the entry for gold dragons in the monster manual perfectly. Again, just like the cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it's like, well, here's the Drider who just finished up wrapping up someone's meal prep. It doesn't do anything for me. it doesn't inspire me. It doesn't say this is the kind of stuff that can go on. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna, Dungeon Minister had his innings. I love first edition AD&D. The cover of the player's handbook, there's dead lizard men everywhere. You got a couple of thieves prying at a gemstone the size of a coffee table. Guys are looking at a map, wondering what they're going to do next. You got people watching the door on the back cover. That's adventure.
It's all sorts of like, you can step into it. You can wonder what's about to happen. You can wonder what just happened.
Yeah.
To me, this seems to be a bit more symptomatic of failing in upper management, because this is really an art director's problem. So I know you're BFFs with Richard Witter now. Delver.
Yeah, I like Richard's a good guy. Yeah,
but to me, this cover. First of all, I know it's slightly blurry because I enlarged it, but it looks fuzzy in every image I see. So this painting, first of all, it isn't sharp. It's a style that's kind of blah. I don't like the color selection. Like nothing really stands out to me. It's just, and like you said, it's, I guess maybe off to the right, there's something maybe attacking them. But it's not very exciting. The art style doesn't really work. I do like that Drider image a lot. I kind of like the other, what do you call it? Special edition covers for these books. But even there, they don't seem that appropriate. I totally agree. You need something more like the original covers, like you're talking about, or even the 5th edition cover. You know?
Yeah.
It's that is I do think that is the beginning of a style of art, though. I think that's the thin edge of a wedge, if you will. Because it just doesn't have the sort of grit, but it is, I would say, a mile and 3/4 better than what we've got now.
Yeah, I mean, Player's Handbook. Here's a book how to play D&D, where you will fight giants.
Yeah.
You can do badass stuff against giants in this version of D&D. Hot damn, I'm in. Player's Handbook, 6th edition, where you can sit down and have tea with a dragon.
Which, if it was really me, that's what I'd want to do. But if I'm playing a game, no.
Yeah, and they've let the aspirational air out of D&D a lot. And I think it speaks to a larger problem with people. I mean, I made fun of the thing ceaselessly, and I will continue to make fun of the thing ceaselessly. That damn Strixhaven thing where you can go and be baristas.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I just got done with a double shift at Panera. It's time for my D&D game. The DM's running Strixhaven. Guess what? You're all baristas. I'd be like, nope.
Now, in defense to WotC, that was not an official WotC module. That was something somebody wrote and posted on.
But still,
was that? I thought there was a.
No. It's on the official. There's one site where you post modules, and WotC will take 50% of the income for your work.
DM's Guild, I think.
DM's Guild, that's it. And that's where it was posted. So in defense to the people of Seattle, even they hadn't come up with something that boring. But it does go to the mentality of some people who have latched onto the hobby. It's that the extent of their imagination for excitement is, if you need a double shot of espresso or not.
Yeah, I don't hate those people. And in fact, if somebody like that showed up at Free RPG Day and I was running AD&D and they said, I want to try this, I would hope that they would sit down and play. I would hope that they would realize that they don't have to be Carla the barista. They can be Max the barbarian. They can be Phineas the thief. They can be Mesron the magic user. I would hope that people would explore and aspire to more, but that Wizards of the Coast gave this their blessing, and they would have had to have. I mean, I've got the, this is right here. This is the page for it. And I know this is old news, and I know we've talked about this a lot. The Fire Jolt Cafe is a hotspot of activity on Strixhaven campus, particularly for first-year students. Oh, that gives me gas just saying it. If you're not studying in the Biblioplex next door, you're here poring over tomes of study or dozing off in the lounge. Well lit, clean, and with no bounds on the selection of coffee and tea beverages offered, you want to jump in traffic. In Minecraft. The cafe draws in customers at all times of day. For your first day of work, your manager, a female elf named Elena Tanglewood, has asked you to come in before opening to the Fire Jolt. The sun is rising just over Strixhaven University when she unlocks the front doors for you. Geez Louise. How atrophied does your imagination have to be to want to have the literally boundless universe of Dungeons and Dragons? Even the Holmes basic rules for levels 1 to 3 extends in every direction an infinite amount of space. Okay. Hell, even the box, the beginner set, the starter set that Wizards themselves put out 10 years ago offers just limitless potentials for adventure. But to wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to play a D&D game where I can play someone stuck in a service job. What has happened to people's minds? What has happened to their brains where they want that?
Bill, to be fair, in the current economy, getting a job is a fantasy adventure for a lot of people.
Yeah, having a well-paying job where you meet interesting people in a clean store probably is a zany, a zany, unimaginable fantasy for a lot of people.
The newest module is going to be you buy a house.
Oh, well, see, that's just crazy talk. Nobody's going to buy that because that's like White Plume Mountain levels of crazy.
No, it's if you're dragon, you get a house, you get a home loan for 5% interest.
No,
that's the ultimate reward.
Mage's Musing says Papers and Paychecks was a joke in the first edition AT&D Dungeon Master's Guide. He's right. He's absolutely right. The old Papers and Paychecks comic by Bill McLean, and it's now part of Dungeons and Dragons. What is wrong with these people?
Yeah. So I wanted to bring this up. Dirty History and Hobbies. I still don't understand why the new versions need explicit written subclasses. I mean, if you have a specific idea for flair, then can it just be worked out with the DM? Yes. Generally, yes. So that is one criticism that I don't quite understand about the 2024 Player's Handbook. It has 12 classes, and they announced 48 subclasses. Now, I understand 48 sounds like a lot, but that's only an average of 4 per class. And if you go back to the 2014 book, they were already doing 3 to 4 subclasses per class. So it's not really any different.
Yeah, don't look at me. I'm back me.
10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, Dungeon Minister probably thinks I'm at feet because I have like 1 or 2 subclasses for every class in my preferred edition. Clerics, druids, thieves, assassins, magic users, illusionists, fighters. Fighters have just gone completely bonkers because you have fighter and you have ranger and you have paladin
and barbarian
and monk.
Not in monks. Monks are a class unto themselves.
Yeah,
but
I mean, but Beckme does have druids. If you get a cleric to 9th level, they can choose to be a druid, and a fighter takes a path, and it could be the path of the paladin or the avenger or the knight, But
I'm having problems with your audio, Dungeon Minister. It just pops and clicks that I don't understand.
Really? But, Yeah. So there are things that are like. They're not subclasses, really. Yeah, the druid kind of is. The druid very much is, but they're mostly just sort of ways of playing, right? That become like how have you played this character? Well, this is how you've played it, so let's follow this as a sort of path. The proliferation of classes and
to me,
I think people are going to play like 15 of those, and the others will literally never get played.
Yeah.
I'm 48 classes. I'm sorry. You're never going to have somebody rock up on you with class 44. It's not going to happen.
Well, generally speaking, I'm betting the ones that get played are like the gnome barbarian. The things that are so completely absurd that
what? That was one of my favorite characters that I ever played.
Yeah, and I mean, to if I'm being completely honest, zany classes for the lulls. If people want to go zany classes for the lulls, these 5e and 6e folks are absolute punters because I was right on the tip. Hackmaster, which was a parody version of AD&D, had stuff like gnome titans, and I'm not making that up. John's Longbox says, I hate the whole concept of class. Well, John, come and watch a live stream when we have no class.
Yeah, so I saw an interview with Chris Perkins from a few months ago, and he was saying that, if he could go back to 2014, one of the things that they would change that he would want to change in the design of D&D is fewer classes, but more subclasses. What do you guys think about that? Because one thing he was saying is, at least in 5e, it's like if you got somebody new coming in, what's the appreciable difference between a wizard and a sorcerer? Yeah, they play in slightly different ways, but they're magic casters. Like what's the real difference between a fighter and a paladin? They're a little different, but they're mostly fighty guys.
At this juncture, classes, I think there's so many of them that they're kind of like races, and I can't wait to get into that in a minute, because I have a very spicy tweet that I want to share about that. But it's just a different colored shirt. It's literally just a different colored shirt.
Yeah, I mean, the whole warlock, sorcerer, wizard thing for me is, it's like, well, it's where they get the spells. Okay. And
yeah.
I'm a magic user. I get my spells by sticking my finger in the electrical outlet every night. I mean, what does it matter where you get them? Are you going to shoot the magic missile, or are you going to talk about it?
Yeah, exactly. Write that up in your 3 pages of backstory there, J.R.R. Tolkien, and I'll read it. Never. We got a room full of kobolds. Are you going to cast sleep or not?
Yeah.
So,
I had a brilliant game last night with a guy casting a sleep spell, and what they did after it. It was one of those. I'm not going to recount it because that's the worst thing in the world. Someone recounting a game to other people. But hang on, that's my channel. Anyway,
took me a second.
But no, they played this game, and it was one of those games where the interdependency of the old school sort of system where you couldn't go it alone. No one character was a powerhouse. You really had to it was on perfect display. They did it beautifully. It was just gorgeous. And so the idea of this is your thing you do, and this is the realm you have, and that was beautiful. Sorry, that has nothing to do with the topic, but it came to mind, and I just wanted to say it because I had such a great time. So.
No, that's cool, man. That's very cool.
So should we get on the topic of race in D&D and Mexican orcs?
Yes, because I have a great image. This literally was tweeted like
prepare for demonetization
a half an hour ago.
I've never been monetized. Never will be at this rate. So
it's right there, Yang. Margaret Weiss, fix the WotC orcs. She literally just tweeted that. She's not having it, okay? Co-creator of Dragonlance is not having it. And this is what she's talking about. Whoops. That is not what she's talking about. This is what she's talking about.
Yeah. See, this. I'm not even going to go into the glaringly obvious here. For me, it's an art style that I see more and more of. That the color palette, the lines and forms used, even the axe wielding individual with the sort of downturned, indulgent smile. It's again, it just conjures something up that isn't adventure. It just conjures something up that and I know it's a game in which there's goblins and dragons and magic and things like that. Anything can happen, but none of those clothes are medieval. None of that says medieval fantasy.
But to make it worse, I actually read some of the description of it's like I forget what they call it, but it's like some kind of orcs. They roam around the desert. They have a kind of clothing that drapes over the body and has a hole in the center where you put your head through. So ponchos are officially part of the D&D universe now, and they wear wide brim hats to keep the sun off them, aka sombreros. So the thing for me that's very peculiar, I actually don't necessarily have a problem with it, except that Wizards of the Coast has spent years telling us that orcs are black people. What happened?
I don't know, but these are the same people that tore themselves in half. They threw ashes on their head. They ripped their garments. They self-flagellated over the Hadozee a couple of years ago because the Hadozee were they were Yazirians from Star Frontiers, and they showed them like dancing. There were depictions of them dancing. And so they self-flagellated for the longest time over that. And, you know, now there's this ridiculous nonsense. Like, what even is this?
I can't even explain it. And then, well, maybe I can find. Did you happen to see the dwarf
No.
beard tattoo one?
The beard
Dwarf
tattoo was one thing. The beard tattoo was bad, but the plate of cookies, that's what got me.
Oh, okay. I
the
did.
Cookies into the forge. And that's, again, it's this cozy. It's this warm, utopian,
Syrupy, saccharine.
It's an art for people who don't want there to be danger. They don't want there to be an edge. They don't want there to be, this.
Oh, that. Oh,
He's
my.
bringing cookies to the forge. Hey, everyone, let's take a work break and have cookies.
So, and in case you missed it, this guy here with the green gloves, if you look at his shoulder, he's got the green bandana dwarf's beard tattooed on his arm. Green bandana dwarf, who's holding whatever metal thingy that is, he has the cookie dwarf's beard tattoo on his shoulder. If I were in this world, I would have a very hard time taking dwarves seriously. You know what I mean? Like, we have to come to some negotiation or something. I wouldn't take them seriously. If someone was like, we have a troop of dwarves coming in to shore up our defenses against the dragon, I'd be like, oh, crap. We are in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, there will be cookies. I mean, I heard they're bringing muffins and cookies and an apple pie. It's going to be fabulous. But
you know who I blame for this, though? Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson turned Gimli, that little homicidal ball of hair and metal that carved his way from Rivendell all the way to Minas Tirith, and then over to the Moran, to the Black Gate. Turned him into a joke. Turned him into a punchline.
Yeah, he was his fighting at Helm's Deep was like it was vicious. It was ferocious. It was legendary.
Literally, the first time we hear about Gimli like fighting with a capital F, an orc jumps on top of Balin's tomb in the Hall of Marzabal, and guess what he does? He hacks him off at the knees. He literally severs the orc at the knees.
Yeah.
All right. You know, and he's reduced to the only place in the Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but it has to do with this. The only place in the film The Lord of the Rings where they gave Gimli a modicum of dignity was when he was talking about receiving the 3 hairs from Galadriel.
Yeah, it was beautifully done. It was absolutely beautifully done. And I don't think the character needs to be devoid of humor, but in about halfway through the Two Towers, I got really tired of the way he'd been.
I could find you a box to stand on.
Yeah.
Oh.
It wasn't. You know what? It wasn't bad in Fellowship. It was there, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
The nobody tosses a dwarf thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. By halfway through Two Towers, though, it's like, oh, come on. I will say, though, in terms of screen adaptations of Tolkien's work, I'll take that, given the alternatives. But this is something else, though. And someone was commenting about, quite apart from whether it's dwarves or orcs or anything else, I can't put my finger on what it is. I'm not an art critic. I'm not knowledgeable. I just know how it makes me feel. And I don't know if it's the palette. I don't know if it's the brush strokes, the form, the weight, the fact that there doesn't really seem to be focal points in any of these things.
Yeah.
It ain't no Larry Elmore, okay?
No.
It's if you held this up next to Elmore or Easley or any of it's not it's just not, and I don't know exactly what it is.
I have just a one-off sketch done by David S. LaForce that he put in my copy of Deities and Demigods that has better composition than this. He did it in literally like 45 seconds when I met him at GaryCon last year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a lot of these problems, again, there's probably something going on at Wizards where someone in upper management is demanding a lot of these things be added in.
Larry Fink, excuse me.
Well,
something stuck in my throat.
Yeah, so, because like, why would you cram so much in? And I think part of the other problem is because everything's done digitally these days. Like if Larry Elmore painted an awesome picture and somebody was like, okay, you need to cram in 8 times more the dwarves and make sure one has cookies, then for sure he would have to start over. Because when you're physically painting on a canvas, there's only so much changing you can do. Whereas once you're using Photoshop or some other program, you can infinitely add in more crap or redo stuff. And that really, for my money, makes a problem with the art, because then it's basically art by committee.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's it. Maybe maybe you can just like listening to an actual pipe organ as opposed to an electronic organ that's playing through speakers. It's just a recording of organ and it plays and you hit the keys. You can tell the difference. I don't know how, but you can. You can tell the difference. It doesn't have anima. It has no gravitas. It has nothing that says reality because it's been done on a computer. That may be it. And you know what? I remember, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 nerd councils of doom ago, we talked about, the sort of slippery slope of AI art. And then I see things like this and I say, maybe AI art's okay. Maybe it's okay. Because I don't think an AI is gonna give you a dwarf with cookies. I don't think it's going to.
I disagree, because I think somebody in management up until the last day will be telling their subordinates, like, no, it needs to be more welcoming. And then you're going to have some intern that says, I like when people greet me with cookies, and put that in the game.
Oh, I want to know what you roll for cookies. Is that like is it an attack roll? Are you doing a dexterity check, a wisdom check for your cookie?
There's a cooking skill.
Is there a cooking skill? There you go.
There has been
a baking skill.
But that reminds me, I was reading too that they're introducing a lot more backgrounds. Like now there's a farmer background.
I've got to say, and I said this since 2014. And those of you listening, you might want to take your shoes off, or else your socks are going to get blown right through them. I never had a problem with the background.
Mm-hmm.
Background to me is as inoffensive as secondary skills in AD&D. It starts you off with maybe a useful piece of equipment and a possible bit of joss for a given die roll. And I mean, for somebody who's literally like, I mean, my guy's a fighter, well, here, look at these backgrounds. It's something you can do in 5 minutes and say, a hunter. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, if you're shooting at a large target, you get a +1 to hit with a bow. Cool. So I'm actually not opposed to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I think the backgrounds were a way to sort of make a simple character backstory, right? Like I was a hunter,
Right.
something that I like some backstory when my players make it. It makes it I can get them engaged in the story a little more. But when it's simple like that, like a goblins killed all my village, or I was a barista, something like that makes it easier for me.
Right.
But like everything, it gets overblown and bloated. I've been trying to fill a spot for my test group on Thursday nights, and oh my god, the people who don't know anything about the game, don't know anything about my campaign setting, who come to me and want to explain to me like their entire backstories. Like, don't you want to know a little bit about the world that they're in before you make that up?
Yeah.
So, question. If you saw an image like this, not in a player's handbook or a DMG or a monster manual, but in a campaign setting book, would it be as irksome?
Yes, this is an instant turn off to me for fantasy adventuring.
In this world, in this setting, apparently dwarves are domestic servants. Like they're doing they're making the weapons and the cookies, and apparently that's you have them to do that kind of scut work while you go do something interesting. Because I mean, I get the dwarves as blacksmiths. Great, very, very swank shop they're in. Again, it has that cold feel of something done on a computer.
Well, I want to show something by comparison, if I can, Yang.
You certainly may.
Let me see here. All right. Now compare that to the image I just posted up.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Now I'm going to confess this is not a gotcha. I literally just now I went into the perchance.org image generator and typed in "Happy Dwarves working at a forge."
I told you there wouldn't be cookies.
And it didn't generate cookies. I mean, the guy on the far right, his right hand is like a nightmare. He's got 2 thumbs and 5 fingers, but
it was a forging accident.
It's just he screwed up when a powerful magic user was walking by and said, "Oh, I wish I had 2 thumbs." Nay. So now he's stuck with that. But I mean, compare that to the WotC image. I'm not talking about the merits of AI art or anything. We're not even having that discussion. Between the two, don't you think this is the better of the two?
Yeah. They're still happy. They don't have to be sourpusses. It doesn't have to be grim. But they're yeah.
I mean, if I saw this in a campaign book and you were talking about, and you told me that, like, yeah, okay, so this is art. Obviously, you'd want a person's version of that, but this is art where it talks about the Ironfoot brothers, the Ironfoot brothers. They work the forge in the town of Midvale. That completely works as art. The other piece, not so much. And Yang has gone to.
Well, if you tell it to, yeah. Oh, even that is preferable somehow.
The dwarves of yore baked cookies well, while hammers fell like ringing bells in kitchens deep where dark things sleep, behind the sugar up on the shelf.
Oh, well, that's good. You know how the cookie got its shape now,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. I don't. I can't. Again, I'm having trouble putting my finger on it. If it's the sort of saccharine expressions on everyone's face, or the I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that is part of the problem. Like, why would you go out adventuring if everything is like really nice at home?
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, I'm just gonna stay in, have some cookies, and feel the sun on my face.
Or another cookie was made. One cookie to rule them all.
But the bakers were deceived. Thank you, dying breed.
And it was oatmeal raisin.
If you're going to give your soul for it, it's got to be chocolate chip.
Absolutely.
Or molasses. I'd die for a molasses cookie.
Chocolate chunk. Just go to one of them giant ones with the chunks of chocolate in it.
Macadamia nut white chocolate.
Oh, Father! I thought you weren't supposed to preach the virtues of the sin of lust.
Well, now I know my next thing for my players. I'm gonna have a devil offer them, a horn of infinite cookies, and it all
there
comes
you go.
Oatmeal raisin.
Cornucopia.
Cornucopia. Oh,
just tilt that out.
The cookie cutter. Whenever you set it down, when you pick it up, there's a cookie there.
If there's a whole milk, a beaker of plentiful whole milk, I'm all for it.
So
a decanter of endless chocolate milk. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's go for that. Sort of the last thing I had on the, shall we say, Player's Handbook preview is how fast will this turn into a D&D 3.5 situation where, even though it was a popular edition, it just got way too bloated, because they've already said that pretty much everything in the 10 years we've had a 5e works perfectly fine in this new version. So now we're just adding more stuff. I mean, you wanted to talk about 48 subclasses being too much. I think there were probably about 10 subclasses per class, and there was like 13 classes. So
you want to know when that's going to happen? What's the release date for the books?
7, I think. Yeah. For the Player's Handbook.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's baked in. If you're saying you port everything in that existing, so not only then are you, just sort of building out more, you're putting the official stamp, because when the initial core books came out, these were the core books, and then if you were going to add in the other stuff, and of course because it's officially published stuff, it becomes harder to say no to. But if you're porting stuff, you were adding things on top of the core books. But if the new core books say everything before is there, well, then they've put it all under the umbrella. It's all absolutely core now. So it's open season.
I want to see what they end up doing with the racial stuff, because in 2014 5e they still had pluses and minuses for races, where supposedly now there's not going to be any at all, and it's all going to be based on the class, which is an okay way to go. You get stat changes based on the class, but I just don't understand how you can change all that. I don't know. I think it's going to be very muddy when you have a bunch of people still playing 2014 5e rules and a bunch of other people playing 2024 5e rules.
Well, I mean, if they're playing whatever they're playing at their table, they're playing at their table. I mean, I don't know. Is tournament play a thing, right? Anymore? Is that even
Adventurers League?
Yeah.
Okay, so then they're just going to have to agree on what they're using, and there you go. I mean, it's not like you play from table to table. You're not hopping a character from one. I mean, some people do it, but you always have to adapt as you enter a new campaign, a new game. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think what's going to be it's just further splintering the fan base into preferences, right? It's less about practical confusion and more just about yet one more edition war, one more front on the edition war.
I don't know. I think it gets into practical. I mean, I know that there are some other changes, like not only in combat but in everything. If you roll a d20 and you get a 1, it's a miss or whatever now, and 20 is an automatic success. So that's a big change. There's a bunch of other smaller ones too, although it's hard to say without having read the actual book. But I just think it's going to be a mess because you'll have people who've been playing for like 10 years, and then you pick up a new member and they're like, oh, but the new thing says this. Strife and division. That's all we're getting.
Yes.
Well, I think we're going to see something that's going to be more akin to 1E to 2E or 3 to 3.5 and less of like second to third or third to fourth or even fourth to fifth. I think the divisions are going to be blurrier, but remember, I brought up Adventurers League. I think you're going to see it's going to be rather like a Microsoft forced adoption situation where it's like, oh yeah, no, play the edition you want, you can't play an Adventurers League anymore because you're not using the latest supplements, but you can keep playing and enjoy. Oh, you wanted to play Adventurers League? Oh yeah, well yeah, no, you got to get the new books. You got to update. You got to show us your character sheets. You got to input those on D&D Beyond, and we got to see that you're playing the new edition now because you want Adventurers League. But no, feel free, keep playing fourth edition or fifth edition. That's fine with us. Yeah, we don't mind at all. Oh, you can't buy the 5 ebooks anymore, just the 6th edition. But well, there you are. Yeah, I mean, you will get frog marched. You will get frog marched.
Well,
it all works. Don't worry about it.
I think if you want to participate in the current ecosystem, maybe. But I mean, I'm still playing an edition from the '80s, and I'm not frog marched anywhere. Like it. I feel no pressure to change anything. Right. So
yeah,
I don't. I think. It sort of depends on a person's how integrated they want to be to the current thing. And if you want to be integrated to the current thing, you're probably on board with the current thing, right? If that's what you want, you're probably already in it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a little more insidious than that because once and again you have somebody maybe just in the last couple of months. They've discovered D&D for the first time and, they get a group together and again, they turn around. They're like, okay, we want to keep going. Now here's a new edition, but I just spent a crap ton of disposable income on this. And now you're telling me I got to upgrade.
I wonder what the friendly local game shops are going to be doing. Are they going to, because they've got stock on their hands. And they're going to try to start to quickly move this stuff and not mention to anybody that there's a new one coming out. Try not to let it be known.
Yeah, I mean, there is an Osborne effect danger, isn't there?
Yeah.
For some in our audience, the Osborne effect, literally the Osborne Computer Company was a leading portable computer company back in the late 70s. And by portable computer, I mean, it was the size of a suitcase. But they debuted their computer at a computer show and then promptly their new computer rather, and then promptly started telling people, if you think this is awesome, wait till you see what's coming next year. Ugh. And then everybody started canceling their orders and they went under. Yeah. They literally next year did themselves out of a job. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, you were about to say,
Yang. Sorry, your computer story affected me so much that
I'm sorry.
He's getting a new computer.
He's gonna go buy an Osborne off eBay.
Oh well, yes, that was my thing. If I were these shops, I would hold on to the stock that I have, and I would wait like 5 or 10 years, and I'd sell them for double the price on eBay. I mean, what does a 1E book go for these days?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean that's the cost of the book from your distributor is sunk cost already. So that's for whatever quarter you sell them in used. I mean, a new old stock, pristine copy of the 5e Player's Handbook. It cracks when you open it. And now I know this is an extreme case, but my friends Todd and Anna over at Gods and Monsters, they bought like a 5 warehouse stock of a guy who had comic books and games and stuff like that. That he literally, it was his private collection, and they found a case lot of in shrink wrap Holmes Basic Dungeons and Dragons. They sold all but one that Anna herself kept, and each one of them went for around $500 because they were shrink wrapped, crispy cornered. So yeah, Yang, I could see a shrewd shopkeeper for every edition of D&D might just set back a case lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, just set whatever it is, set back a case lot. Wait 10 years. Boom.
Definitely.
Yeah. You know, for the longest time, there was a local comic and game store very close to me, and they had a copy of the second edition AD&D adventure Return to the Tomb of Horrors, and it included a facsimile copy of the original in it. Well, I already had a copy of S1 I'd bought on eBay. It was beat to hell, and somebody put I guess somebody was bored at home, and they put a notary public stamp on the map, you know, so it had an embossed notary public stamp on the cover, and, you know, it was marked in and everything else. And I was just like, I don't play 2E, and yeah, that's got a pastel copy in it, but those are like $8 or $10 on eBay. If I ever decide I want one, I'll just get one. Yeah, now guess what those go for on eBay, you know? And this was around 2002 that John, the guy who ran the store, still had this on his shelf. Those things cost hundreds of dollars on eBay now.
All right.
You
Even a beat up one would be fetching something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even one that'd been marked up.
I found the contents of one, like all the supplements, all the stuff that comes in it. Somebody like sold the box separately, because that's the first thing to go, right? You know, the boxes get beat up, the corners get split, and people want a box to make their set complete again. So I found the contents of one that I grabbed off of a Facebook auction for $60. But I can't imagine trying to find a box one. So the shrewd comic book store owner will do exactly what Yang's saying. Set back a case lot of every major thing that hits.
If they can afford it, yeah.
Yeah, if they can afford it. I mean, you know.
And, you know, 10 years from now, people are going to say, oh, remember when we watched that Critical Role show? Let's play that game again.
Yeah, yeah. John's Longbox asked, do we want a pristine copy of the Dwarven Book of Baristas? I still have one in shrink.
Does it have the tear out cookie recipes though?
Yes, it is rated very fine on the Akium, and I'm happy to say it fetches a pretty penny. Paul Stormberg authenticated its value for me. So,
so it seems like there is much going on, and I have a feeling in the next few months we will also have much mirth at other updates, and maybe when we actually get to see the books. But moving on a little bit, who else has been watching The Acolyte? According to Disney Plus subscribers, no one except for me. But have you guys been following?
No.
I've been watching the dumpster fire, which apparently burns in vacuum.
Yes.
I heard about that. That much I heard about, yes.
Campfire on the side of the spaceship hall. We need a fire effect here. Yeah, we're not paying for digital. We're going to go practical effects. Bust up that pallet and pour some of that lighter fluid on it and stick it on the set. And it'll be a fire on the spaceship.
Well, the best part was they used like a campfire sound effect track.
Yeah. Yeah. If they used a Foley.
Yeah.
If they used a Foley, if they just didn't have the boom like right next to it, just crackle, crackle, crackle. Like, what are you guys going to get out weenies and marshmallows? Put them on the end of your lightsaber and
has there been any attempt to defend it, like they were inside the shields and the shields keeps a pocket of oxygen in or something? Is there any?
attempt to
No.
redeem it?
Yes, the defense is it is diverse. That's they have diverse kinds of fire, apparently.
Yeah.
But
No, I haven't watched. I don't. I've seen a few videos of people reacting to it, Critical Drinker and whatnot. I've seen, and they have all convinced me that I do not want to spend any time on that.
you certainly don't want to spend any money on that. I will be the first to say that. But the deeper question is, in this whole debate, a lot of people have been saying woke this and woke that, and one of my theories for years is that once you start talking about that, people just tune out and they miss the big point, which is that the creators really suck. I mean, it's unbelievably bad to the point where there's these twins, and one is good and almost a Jedi, and the other one is evil, being trained by a Sith. And the evil one's like, you know what? I like my sister. I'm gonna go with the Jedi now and turn myself in, just like, out of nowhere. And it makes me wonder: is there any possible redemption for Star Wars? Now, people have said, like, this has killed it. Nah, Star Wars has kind of been dead for quite a while.
For a while now.
But will there ever be a point when it can be resurrected? 20 years from now, 30 years from now?
Well, I mean, I remember essentially considering Star Wars dead the moment Jar Jar Binks opened his mouth. And yet here we are. So, and you hear people online defending Jar Jar Binks, defending the prequels, saying, well, they really weren't that bad, which tells you something, how far we've fallen. But if we're looking at that can it be redeemed? Of course, someone could come along and do a great thing. I mean, you mentioned The Mandalorian. I'm with, I think it was Orbital Air said, or somewhere up there, that the last one I watched was Rogue One. That was the last one I saw as well. But I hear The Mandalorian, at least the first season, was good. And these things
mostly.
Yeah, I think someone could come along and pick it up and say, you know what, we're going to dust this off, and we're just going to go back to a base, the reboot, back to the first. The first copy, going to reinstall and try again with this. Yeah, sure, because the bones are there for an interesting, engaging setting, if you will, campaign setting, and there's a lot of possibilities. There's all sorts of stories could be told. I do wonder, though. While I think someone could do that creatively, would anyone put down money for it anymore? Is the question. After Acolyte, is anyone going to put down any more money for anything? Whatever the ideology behind the writing. I will say, I do think, yes, it's bad writing is a big part of it, but I think the reason it's bad is that when you go in looking to write an ideology and then you try to craft a story around your ideology, it's not going to be good. And it doesn't matter what the ideology is, right, left, center, up, down. If you start with an ideology, not an idea, but an ideology, and you try to write a story that proves it, it's just going to be a bad story because it's just going to come off as hectoring, But yeah, I don't think anyone's putting any money down anytime soon. Maybe give it 20 years.
Yeah, I on the one hand, I think if it can cool off, we might get some good content. The problem is larger than just Star Wars, though, and it's that studio execs got that dopamine release from watching the numbers go up with the Marvel movies. And that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
can we capture that lightning in a bottle again? Even the people making the Marvel movies, and they're not going to stop. They're gonna pound that button no matter how much you beg them to stop hitting that button. You're not going to get more dopamine shoved into your brain by the machine anymore. They're going to keep hitting it. They're not going to let go. They're not going to let people just relax for a little while and enjoy the goodness. I mean, imagine suggesting to 20th Century Fox after Star Wars. Okay, let me put this in perspective. The first expanded universe book that ever came out for Star Wars was Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Not a great book, but an okay book. Fox insisted that it get written so they can make a TV movie follow-up to Star Wars if Star Wars bombed. And the book is written in such a way, if you haven't read it, it's got Luke and Leia and a bunch of people who can be done with forehead of the week monsters and Darth Vader on a constantly described as very foggy jungle planet, i.e. something you could film in a TV studio space.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's how little confidence they have. Imagine going back to Fox in 1977 and saying, I'm going to need $2 billion because I need to make 17 of these movies and 25 TV shows. They'd hold you down and force like Thorazine into your mouth if you came at them with something that was that crazy sounding.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back to that. I'd like there to be a 2-year span between movie A and its sequel, movie B. I'm sorry. We went to we went to the Avengers, and up to the end of Avengers Endgame, the Marvel movies were perfectly cromulent, and Infinity War. I mean, we knew that in 7 months or 8 months, however long it was, Endgame was coming along. There was no question, and there never is a question unless you're watching like a romantic comedy, and even then, or a historical period piece, and even possibly then, there's no question that you're watching a piece of a franchise. And I really wish that would go away.
Yeah.
I really wish that would go away.
So my other question is, part of Star Wars and the Marvel movies and whatnot has been that, we're adding diversity in, any number of ways. And it's been done so poorly. Have we been Pavlovianly conditioned that anytime somebody says like, the main character will be a woman or, whatever other category, do we automatically think, this is going to suck? Or will there be some point where we're like, I'll give that a chance?
I'm not at that point yet. I've seen a fair few movies over the years that had women leads, genre pictures and what have you, where it didn't occur to me like, oh boy, here we go. You got, like Battle Angel, for example. Battle Angel was it was a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen Battle Angel Alita, please see it. And B, Rosa Salazar was just extraordinarily good as Alita. So, I don't take that going forward. I don't. I mean, for the most part, Chris Hemsworth was the lead in the 4th Thor movie, and that movie was absolute, cover your ears, Padre, shit. That movie was garbage. I feel insulted that I was in the theater having that shown to me. The 4th Thor movie was offensively bad.
That reminds me, actually, I was trying to get on my channel a guy who's a pagan as a guest, And he's like, "Oh, I saw your channel talks about comic books, and I won't go on your channel because Thor is so offensive to me and my religion." And I was like, "Oh, okay,
Fair
Okay.
enough.
I mean,
Fair
So-
enough.
okay.
Well, that's better than the fellow I met who claimed to be a pagan and who really considered the Marvel version of Thor to be right on. So, you know, I don't think you've been listening too carefully during pagan church or
yeah,
synagogue or pagan temple or whatever you call it. I don't think you've been paying much attention in the grove when they've been telling the stories, because
that's no.
that's as much Thor as Taco Bell is Mexican. You know,
Yeah.
Taco Orc.
yeah." I can't wait to see what they renamed chalupas as.
Chihuahuas.
I think that's the meat that they use, actually.
Wouldn't surprise me. Well, gentlemen, do we have any other topics for the month?
That I am just about pop cultured out now. I'm looking forward to seeing Wolverine and Deadpool, but that's not till like July. We're not seeing that till like the end of July was when we could score tickets for that. So Deadpool and Wolverine's on the horizon. And otherwise, games wise, anything like that, I'm just keeping on. I mean, I'm doing a playthrough of Doom right now. Like I played the classic Doom, the 4 episodes of classic Doom. I played Doom 2 Hell on Earth, and I'm 1 map away from being done with the Plutonia experiment, and then I'm going to play Doom TNT. So like that's how out of the loop I am on video games.
Well, you want to talk out of the loop on video games? I think the last video game I played was Myst. That's how out of the loop I am on video games.
The flip switching simulator.
Yeah. I do want to mention, though, as Mage's Musings pointed out in the chat there, I do want to, as he said, pimp Claricon. Claricon's happening at the end of October, a little gaming convention in Ontario. Claricon.com is the address for it. And there's going to be lots of very cool people there running games. Mage's Musings among them, among others. Tale of the Manticore is going to be there, the excellent podcaster. Grumpy Old Slan's running a game. Bandits Keep is coming up from New York, along with Text Press, and Ye Old Geek flying in from England. Bear, the Gen X GM, is doing his heroic game. And I just got a message from today from someone who is noticing that one of the slots is full up and saying that if we wanted another table running, he could do his Hardy Boys RPG that he's writing, which my boys have all been fans of the Hardy Boys. I'm guessing that there is a save versus being knocked unconscious, because those characters are constantly unconscious in those books.
Yeah.
But yes, I've just been handed a stack of these to prove their fandom. But don't let's not end on that. Let's not.
Oh, Yang! Why? You've ruined Christmas.
Just photocopy your butt or something next time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's happening in the end of October, and again, Claricon.com. You can find out more about it. I think it's going to be a load of fun.
Excellent. So if people want to go to Claricon, is there an official place that they need to register, or do they just show up?
Claricon.com, and you can pay at the door, but you're not guaranteed a seat at any tables, right? But Claricon.com, and to register and get yourself a spot in the games. Yeah, so it's $20 for a pass, $15 for a day pass for the Saturday only, and there's an opening feast that's going to be delicious. That's extra, but
nice.
It's all good.
What's on the menu for the feast?
Last year it was a honey glazed ham and some extraordinarily good cheesy
cauliflower in that? I can't remember what it was. And dessert. I don't know what's on for this year. It's made by the eating orc again. Yes, it was pork.
Yeah, get like a taco tray or something.
I have a taco tray. Cookies. So the dwarves are making cookies again.
Nice.
Stop them. They refuse to bring anything else. But yeah, so we're gonna have an opening feast. It's all made by essentially the church crew, the church ladies in the so it's going to be good. Mexican food.
I want to find a dwarven cookie cutter for you for Christmas.
Love that.
Dungeon Delver, what do you have coming up?
I have got the orc ribs.
There they are. That's what we used.
Fresh off the bone.
Aldi's when I see it.
Right now, Aldi's, man. Right now, I don't really have I have a top secret project for end of summer that I mean it's very RPG related. That's literally as much as I can say about it. Let's see, fun stuff. Heidi Gygax and Eric Garland are going to be in town in September. It's not related to that, so I'm going to hang out with Heidi and Eric. That's going to be fun. Let me think. I'm doing my 2 live streams. I got my private game on Monday night, so that's about it.
Nice. Cool. Well, as for me, Empire of the Undying Sun is going well. I'm getting some more or less final edits from the editor right now. We are on schedule to launch on Kickstarter. And going to be at the end of September. Empire of the Undying Sun is a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition compatible horror gaming system. So there will be no baristas who live long, and the cookies might be your undoing. But it should be fun for anyone who's looking for a little bit more adult level of a campaign guide. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have New England style. There's something in the woods. We're going to have swashbuckling against pirates. We're going to go down rivers into the deep desert to explore ancient ruins. It's going to be a good time. The website, empireoftheundyingsun.com, is almost ready. What? Were you going to say something, Dungeon Delver?
No, I was just going to mention, I've heard a rumor that someone with some very solid old school sensibility did some adventure writing for Empire the Undying Sun, but...
Well, it's a funny thing you mentioned that, Dungeon Delver, because there is a module called Fairy Hill, which should be up for sale in August, written by a man named Bill Sylvie.
That's me.
So yeah, that should be up and ready to go for sale. And also, if you sign up for the mailing list, which will be up and running in August, you will actually get that for free. Fairy Hill for free. There is a 1E and a 5E edition, so you just download the one that you want. And there are 2 others that the Dungeon Delver has written, and they will be available after August. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to space them out a little bit, I think, but they will be available a little bit later in the year.
Cool. And I have to say, with Yang's guiding hand on those, it was a ton of fun writing them. They're darn good adventures, and if you get physical copies of them and you happen to run into me on the street or something, I will autograph it for you.
Yes, and just to explain slightly further, Empire of the Undying Sun is a campaign setting. However, any of the modules, while they are set in the world of Empire of the Undying Sun, you can easily plop them into whatever campaign worlds you have. They're meant to be one-shots or somewhere between like a 3 and a 6 hour adventure. So, depending on how slow your your players like to take shopping quests.
Yeah, you
but
let them go shopping first. It's going to be a 3-day.
it could be. But it's meant to easily plop into pretty much any campaign setting. So you should check those out.
Nice.
We're eating
Good
orc
stuff.
again.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, gentlemen.
I want to say before we wrap up, for anyone who is not subscribed to that guy's channel, or that guy's channel for that matter, go find them and do that. Do that.
Subscribe to Dungeon Minister and to Yang Yanzel.
Yes.
My Fleetwood's trying to participate in the background here. Gotta get himself involved.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and we will be back next month. I think are we on Dungeon Delvers channel or?
Yes, we will be over at the Dungeon Delvers house. I'll put some beanbag chairs out, and we can play Atari 2600 and drink root beer until it's time to do the show, gents.
Excellent.
Very good.
So,
All right.
for everyone here, go subscribe, and we will see you next month.